What's up, guys? Welcome back into the shop. Hey, today we've got a really cool episode, one that I've really been wanting to do since summer, but I really want to talk about effective ways to catch smallmouth in the river. You guys look at Lake St. Clair and you know it's a massive smallmouth fishery, world-class smallmouth fishery, one of the best in the country. A big underrated and underlooked part of that fishery is the St. Clair River. We've got really nice smallmouth. It was highlighted in the MLF Team Tour Championships. It was highlighted when Palinung ran up here during the elites and caught a 6-pounder. There's big fish, there's aggressive fish, and there's plenty of fish up here. There's a ton of ways to catch them, and I want to kind of highlight that before I dive into the two main techniques that I want to talk about here. But the two main techniques I want to talk about are drop shots and tubes. They're very effective, they're very cost effective, and they're fairly simple to use as opposed to trying to find current seams and throwing top water or throwing jerk baits or throwing mag drafts or those big heavy swim baits. When it comes to drop shotting and tube fishing, it's pretty simple. You can target a lot of your current breaks, whether it's seawalls, docks, pilings. That's really it. Ferry landings. I mean, you name it. Anywhere that there's a ripple in the current, you can throw these baits. But you can also use the current to your advantage because a lot of fish sit out in this river and they're sitting in 25 to 30 foot of water over these rock flats. And so using the current to your advantage and basically dragging these baits over can be a super effective way to catch them. And especially if you're not confident casting or confident in the current, you can really put a number of fish in just drifting. And I know a lot of you walleye guys are very familiar with that. So maybe this will kind of help you and get you on the water and catching some smallmouth because there's some very nice fish out in the river. So as I mentioned before, we're gonna dive into two big techniques that I love. They're my favorite. Whenever I go out smallmouth fishing on the water, I usually have 2 or 3 rods tied up with this specific technique, and then I'll roll a couple other ones in there, whether it's crankbaits, jerk baits, mag drafts, stuff like that. So let's get into it. First one that I'm going to talk about that any smallmouth fisherman should know is the drop shot rig. It's a simple hook. This one here is a trocar. It's an Eagle Claw trocar size 1. Super nice hook. And then this is a 1/2 ounce weight. When you guys are coming into the river, I really recommend anything like 3/8 to 5/8. I like a 1/2. It's nice in the middle. If I'm fishing that heavier current, I will throw 5/8. If I'm fishing a little bit less current or shallower water, then I can get away with the 3/8. But I like using a heavy weight because I want to work the bait. I don't want to let the current work the bait. This simple rig here, I'm going to pair it up with a Z2. This is a baby Z2, the deal. And as far as that goes, guys, all you're going to do is take the very top of this and just thread it right on the hook, just like that. And that way, when that bait gets in the water, this thing floats and it looks just like that. And you're presenting it like this. Now, for those of you that drop shot fish a lot, you might think this is a little bit short of a lead on my drop shot. I actually love tying up shorter leads in the river. A big reason I do that is because in this river system and in the current, you're going to notice that all the fish are sitting on the bottom. I mean, you can see it on your live scope. You can see it on your 2D. Those fish are on the bottom. So what I want to do is present a bait that's in the strike zone for those fish. I don't necessarily want it to be out of the strike zone. So a nice little, I don't know, what is that, about a foot, maybe a little less. That's an ideal lead for me. Maybe I'll bring it up a little bit higher, but I really do like this sort of a lead. It still keeps the hook out of all the junk as the drop shot, especially when I'm dragging the drop shot. It keeps the hook out of the junk, whether there's riprap or logs or whatever on the bottom. It kind of lets the weight do all the work there. But super effective. And the reason I like the drop shot again is because you can cast the drop shot, you can drag the drop shot. I can't tell you how many fish we've caught just going with the current and dragging. Maybe you're having a tough day and those fish aren't setting up on those current seams. They're not setting up on those pilings like you used to. Go find a rock flat and just drift with the current. And I'm almost fishing them vertical. So I am up on my trolling motor. I'm not letting the current do all the work. I'm up on my trolling motor, adjusting the speed. So I'm almost vertical, maybe a little bit of an angle here. So maybe it's pulling a little bit like this, as opposed to straight up and down. It's a little bit on an angle like this. But either way, you want it fairly close to vertical. Problem is, if you get too close, if you get too much on an angle, you're gonna be pulling it like this, and then you're just asking for snags. So try to keep it as vertical as possible. And then there's a bunch of different baits that you can use. So obviously I've got the Z2 tied up. A lot of the bass right now are eating shiners in the river. But you've got, you know, a Berkeley power bait, flat nose minnow. These are really good. Anything power bait seems to be incredible out here. So you've got the flat nose minnow. And of course, guys, the power bait, flat scent worm, or max scent worm, the flatworms are impossible to beat, whether it's a 3.6 or a 4.2. They are some of the best baits out there. I love these Z2s. They're a little bit more durable. Seems like you only get 1 or 2 fish on these before a bass tosses them off. You can usually get a few more on here before they get chewed off. There's a lot of ways to fish these. You can fish them on a jig. You can fish them on a Texas rig, like a big EWG hook. But I really like to drop shot them. Then you can also use the Hook One jigging minnows, 3.75 inch split tails. The Disco Shiner's really good. Slim Shady's really good. And our Money Goby's probably one of our best ones, especially in the river system. They're feeding on a lot of gobies. But the drop shot, do not overlook the drop shot. Another fun thing about both of these baits, but especially a drop shot, I think you'd be surprised how many walleyes you catch in 10 to 12 foot of water when you're fishing that structure on one of these drop shots. So a super good bait. Again, just a size 1 trocar hook. This here is a 1/2 ounce weight, anywhere from 3/8, half, or 5/8 will be fine. But that's basically how I'm rigging my drop shot hook. We've got it on a Seaguard 10-pound Invis-X. I really like the Invis-X. Red Label's fine if you don't want to spend that much money on this leader, but the Invis-X looks really good. Hopefully it's invisible in this video, kind of hard to tell. The next bait we're going to talk about, every smallmouth fisherman knows it. It's an incredible bait, catches tons of fish, is the tube. I've got this tube rigged up on a Northland rattle tube. This is a 3/8 ounce. I like 3/8, I like half, and even sometimes I like 3/4, depending how fast the current is going. It's a little bit harder to find the 3/4 ounce tubes. We do still have some in stock, but I really like using the 3/8 and the half. So this is on a rattle jig. You can actually hear the tube rattle a little bit. That's what this little gold piece is here on the tubes. It's a rattle in there. So as this thing's bouncing along the rocks down there, you can hear it rattling. And there's 2 big ways I fish this. Oh, by the way, this tube, I love this tube. It's the watermelon candy green pumpkin from the coffee tubes. Super nice bait, very natural looking, and it does wonders for us. So there's a couple ways you can fish these tubes. One of them is obviously casting them up on flats and stuff like that. But a lot of times in the river, what you notice is come July, when these fish are in the river, it's very weedy. It can be very snaggy. So another way that I really like to fish the tube and cover up as much water as possible is dragging the tube. I'll cast it upstream, similar to the drop shot, but I'll fish the tube on more of an angle to kind of get that head up and kind of popping along the rocks, get this skirt doing what it's supposed to be doing. But what I really like about the tube is how much water you can cover and how much it looks like with a natural bait, whether it's a goby or a craw. Dragging those tubes, especially across rock flats, I've caught so many fish, especially in that 4 to 5 pound range. Haven't got my 6 yet, but especially in that 4 to 5 pound range, dragging this tube in 25 to 35 foot of water. There's a ton of spots out there on the river that have big rocks, small rocks, but they're holding all of what the smallmouth are eating, whether, like I said, it's the gobies or the craws. Those rocks are holding that bait. So being able to drag this tube along those rock flats and really cover a 1/4 to a 1/2 mile at a time, especially with the current out there, for you guys that aren't familiar with the current, I mean, it's really going anywhere between 1.5 miles and 2 miles an hour. So you can cover a 1/4 mile, a 1/2 mile pretty quickly and kind of dissect that area and see if there's fish there, if those fish are feeding. If you are a scoper, you can see them down there. They're kind of blended in with the rocks, but when you're moving quick, you've got to train your eye to kind of see those fish swimming down there. A lot of times you can see kind of rocks just passing through and they might look like fish. But I don't even really use my scope. I use my 2D a little bit here and there, but again, the fish are buried in the rocks. So it's one of those strategies where I really like to just get out and cover water. You don't need a lot of technology. You don't need a lot of, I mean, what are we at? $4.99 here and $6.49 here. So you're at about $12 and you've got a bag of tubes and a box of tubes and a bag of plastics. You will go through the tubes pretty quick depending how snaggy the areas are. But I mean, for $12, you can get out there and cover a ton of ground and catch one of the most fun fish to fight in the Great Lakes. Definitely a smallmouth. And for those of you guys that fish the lake and the river, you do understand, but the fish that we catch in the river are aggressive, they're mean, and they're angry. They fight super hard. They're a blast to fight in the current. I highly recommend not putting your stuff on spot lock when you've got a fish on, because once that thing gets in the current, especially when you get one of those big fat ones that's shaped like a football, they really start to pull against the current and it's a lot of fun. But that's all I've got for you guys on this episode. I really just wanted to touch on 2 simple ways, 2 cost-effective ways to come out and catch smallmouth bass and really enjoy a fishery and kind of extend your fishery. Because a lot of our local guys will put their boats away come June or July because the walleye fishing slows down. But guys, these two simple rigs right here will help you land a ton of smallmouth bass. It'll extend your season all the way into the summer. It's a great fishery if you want to get the kids out or get people out that have never really fished before when the walleye fishing's slow. Maybe go out and chase your walleye first thing in the morning until that sun comes up, and then go chase these smallmouth. Because on days that aren't very walleye fishy, high sun, not a lot of wind, calm days where you wouldn't want to walleye fish, they're great days to smallmouth fish. The smallmouth lift up off the bottom, they're actively feeding, and you can really get into a good bite. So find yourself, come on into the store, we'll get you hooked up. Or if you've got this stuff here, get yourself a drop shot rig, get yourself a tube, throw a little coffee tube on there, maybe a little max scent tube. You guys will find a ton of success. Hopefully you'll catch some big smallmouth, and that next 6-pounder could be right around the corner from you. We'll see you guys next time. Adios.